Dr. Amanda Marshall pressed her hand against the cold steel door of the quantum archives, feeling the subtle vibrations of the resonance pillar mounted above Chicago's ruins. The crystalline structure pulsed with an otherworldly blue light, broadcasting its endless stream of commands to the human populace below. She checked her quantum dampener one last time. The small device hidden beneath her regulation gray uniform was humanity's only defense against direct neural manipulation, and even then, it only partially worked. The archives door slid open with a soft hiss. Amanda slipped inside, her heart pounding against her ribs as she made her way through rows of holographic data crystals. Each one contained thousands of pre-invasion records, carefully preserved by the Harmonious Collective for their own mysterious purposes. The aliens believed humanity's history was worth studying, even as they systematically stripped away human free will. Access granted to Citizen 274 to 591, announced the archive's eye. Please state your research parameters. Amanda cleared her throat. Accessing pre-invasion linguistic databases, specifically focusing on neural response patterns to auditory stimuli. She kept her voice steady, professional. As one of the few humans granted limited research privileges, she couldn't afford to arouse suspicion. The AI hummed, and a series of holographic displays materialized around her. Neural maps floated in the air like ghostly butterflies, showing how human brains processed different languages before the collective arrived. Amanda began cross-referencing them with her own secret recordings of post-invasion neural patterns. Something caught her eye: a discrepancy in the way bilingual subjects processed tonal information. She leaned closer, enlarging a particular neural map from a Spanish-English speaker. The pattern was subtle but unmistakable. Their brains handled the collective's commands differently than monolingual subjects. A door slammed somewhere in the archives. Amanda's hands froze over the holographic controls as footsteps echoed through the chamber. She quickly saved her findings to a subdermal data chip, another piece of forbidden technology, and pulled up a random study on agricultural optimization. Dr. Marshall. The crystalline form of Overseer Fragment 7 floated into view, its faceted surface refracting the archive's pale light. Your presence here is unexpected. Amanda bowed slightly, the proper gesture of submission. Overseer. I'm conducting supplementary research on crop yields to improve my sector's efficiency. The crystalline being hung motionless for a moment, its surfaces shifting in what Amanda had learned to recognize as their version of thought. Your dedication is noted. However, your assigned research period ended 6.3 minutes ago. My sincerest apologies. Amanda began shutting down the holographic displays. I was absorbed in the work. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't. Fragment 7's tone carried the subtle harmonic that preceded a command. Amanda felt her dampener heat up slightly as it worked to protect her mind. Return to your assigned dwelling immediately. Of course, Overseer. She walked out of the archives, maintaining a measured pace despite her urge to run. The command still pulled at her, but the dampener held. 3 years ago, she would have had no choice but to obey instantly. Outside, Chicago's broken skyline stretched toward the darkening sky. Resonance pillars dotted the cityscape, their blue light painting everything in cold alien hues. Groups of humans moved through the streets with mechanical precision, their minds bound by the endless stream of quantum-encrypted commands. Amanda touched the spot behind her ear where the data chip sat. If she was right about the linguistic anomaly, it could change everything. The collective's control wasn't as perfect as they believed. Human consciousness was too complex, too chaotic to be fully bound by their rigid systems. She made her way to her assigned housing block, already composing the message she would send through the Resistance's hidden quantum network. Dr. Rebecca Williams needed to see these results. Together, they might have found the first real weakness in the collective's seemingly perfect control. The resonance pillar above her head pulsed, sending another wave of commands across the city. But for the first time since the invasion, Amanda felt something she hadn't dared to feel in years. The underground laboratory beneath MIT's ruins hummed with stolen power. Amanda studied the neural readings on her display while Jack Torres sat in the testing chamber, his brain patterns dancing across the screen like an abstract painting. The former linguistics professor had just completed another resistance command test, and the results were fascinating. "Your readings are incredible, Jack," Amanda said through the intercom. "The way your brain processes their commands. It's like watching someone speak two languages simultaneously." Jack emerged from the chamber, his dark hair damp with sweat. "Growing up bilingual has its perks, I guess. Though I never thought code switching between English and Spanish would help me resist alien mind control." Amanda pulled up a three-dimensional model of his neural activity. "Look at these pathway formations. When the collective issues a command, your brain automatically tries to process it through both linguistic frameworks. It creates a delay, microscopic, but real. Enough to give me that split second of resistance," Jack asked, studying the floating display. "Exactly. And if we can understand why." Amanda's explanation cut off as the lab's security system pinged. Someone was approaching through the emergency tunnel. They both froze. The resistance network had strict protocols about unscheduled visits. Amanda reached for the particle disruptor hidden under her workstation, while Jack moved to the tunnel entrance, ready to seal it. The hidden door slid open, revealing a young man who practically fell into the lab. Blood stained his left side, and his breathing came in ragged gasps. "Michael Chen," he managed between breaths. "West Coast. Resistance. Dr. Williams sent me." Amanda rushed to help him to a chair while Jack sealed the entrance and grabbed their medical kit. "Rebecca sent you. What happened?" Michael winced as Jack began treating his wound. "A glancing hit from a collective patrol's energy weapon. Had to get this to you." He pulled a quantum data crystal from his jacket. "Research from Stanford's Linguistics Division. They found something in the command structures. But the collective, they knew something was wrong. Started purging the facility." Amanda's hands trembled as she inserted the crystal into their reader. Data streamed across the screens. Neural maps, command pattern analyses, and most importantly, proof that her discovery wasn't unique. Other researchers had noticed the same anomalies in multilingual subjects. "You're saying there are others?" she asked. "Other teams working on this?" Michael nodded, his color improving as Jack applied regenerative foam to his injury. "Cells all over. Linguistics experts, quantum physicists, neuroscientists. Dr. Williams is coordinating, trying to piece it all together. But we're running out of time. The collective, they're starting to notice the pattern." "How many facilities have they purged?" Jack asked, his voice tight. "Stanford was the third this month. They're getting more aggressive, like they know we're onto something." Michael straightened in his chair. "But that's why this is so important. The West Coast team found that it's not just bilingual people. It's anyone with complex linguistic training. Musicians, poets, even people who work with computer languages. Their brains all show micro-variations in how they process the commands." Amanda's mind raced with the implications. They all have one thing in common. They're used to handling multiple symbolic systems simultaneously. Their neural architecture is more flexible, which means the collective's control isn't as perfect as they think. Jack added, "They designed their system for simple, linear processing. They never accounted for human linguistic diversity because they don't understand imperfection." Amanda finished. "Their consciousness is built on perfect quantum coherence. They can't conceive of a system that works because of its flaws, not despite them." Michael leaned forward, his eyes bright despite his exhaustion. "Dr. Williams thinks we can use this, but she needs more data, more examples, and we need to move fast. Every time they purge a facility, they update their command protocols." Amanda turned to the neural display, watching Jack's brain patterns shimmer in the holographic light. "Then we'll give her what she needs." "Jack, how many other bilingual subjects can you find?" "At least a dozen in the Boston area alone. All trusted contacts." "Good." Amanda began preparing the testing chamber for another session. Michael, once you're stable, we need everything you know about the West Coast research. If we can combine their findings with our data, we might have a real chance, Michael said softly. Above them, the distant thrum of a resonance pillar pulsed through the earth. But in the hidden lab, surrounded by forbidden knowledge and dangerous hope, its command carried a little less weight than before. Dr. Rebecca Williams' hologram flickered in the dim light of the underground lab, her expression grave as she examined the latest test results. The pattern is undeniable now. Every multilingual subject shows the same neural resistance. Amanda, your theory about quantum linguistics was right. Amanda nodded, surrounded by displays showing brain-wave patterns from resistance members across the globe. But understanding it isn't enough. We need to find a way to use this knowledge. The lab's door hissed open as David Cooper entered, his former Navy SEAL training evident in his silent movement, despite his large frame. Perimeter's secure, but we've got another problem. The collective's increasing patrols in the university district. They're using new scanning frequencies. They're adapting, Jack Torres said from his workstation, where he was analyzing command patterns. Every time we make progress, their protocols evolve. David's weathered face hardened. My team can keep them off our backs, but not forever. We lost contact with the Vancouver cell last night. The news hit like a physical blow. Amanda had known the researchers there, brilliant minds working on quantum interference patterns. Any word from the survivors? None. David's voice was tight. But the collective's getting sloppy in their paranoia. They're leaving traces of their operations now. Patterns we can track. Rebecca's hologram turned to face him. What kind of patterns? Energy spikes from their resonance pillars before each purge. They're increasing power to ensure total compliance in the target areas. If we can monitor these fluctuations, we might be able to predict their next move, Amanda finished. She pulled up a new display, showing power distribution across the North American Resonance Pillar Network. Look at these readings. The energy signatures are different when they're preparing for a purge. Jack abandoned his workstation to study the data. It's like they're overcompensating, pushing their perfect system beyond its design parameters because they're afraid of our imperfections. A soft chime interrupted them. Another resistance cell requesting connection. Amanda verified their quantum encryption before accepting. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez's face appeared alongside Rebecca's hologram, her Mexico City lab visible in the background. We've confirmed it, Sarah said without preamble. The collective's command structure can't handle semantic ambiguity. When we introduced subjects who specialized in poetic metaphor, the neural binding almost completely failed. Amanda's heart raced, because metaphors can hold multiple meanings simultaneously. Exactly. Their quantum encryption requires precise, unambiguous meaning. But human language, especially artistic expression, thrives on ambiguity. Multiple meanings existing in superposition, just like quantum states. David moved closer to the displays. Can we weaponize this? Turn their own command system against them? Maybe. Sarah's image shifted as she pulled up her own data. We've been experimenting with introducing controlled linguistic chaos into their network. Poetry, music, deliberately ambiguous phrases. Each injection causes microscopic fractures in their quantum coherence. But we'd need a way to introduce it into their entire command network simultaneously, Rebecca pointed out. Otherwise, they'll just isolate and adapt, like they've been doing. Jack's eyes lit up. What if we use their resonance pillars? They're already designed to broadcast quantum-encrypted commands across entire populations. Hijacking even one pillar would be suicide, David warned. They're too well guarded. We don't need to hijack them, Amanda said slowly, an idea taking shape. We just need to add noise to their existing broadcasts. The right kind of linguistic static, layered into their own commands. Sarah leaned forward. Like a quantum version of a feedback loop. The more they try to enforce compliance, the more our interference would spread through their network, Rebecca finished. Amanda, this could work. But we'd need to test it on a small scale first. David nodded grimly. I know just the place. There's a minimal security pillar near the old financial district. My team can get you close enough for a test run. One problem at a time, Amanda cautioned, but her pulse quickened with possibility. Sarah, send us everything you have on linguistic interference patterns. Jack, start working on a delivery system. Rebecca, I'll coordinate with the other cells, Rebecca said. If this works, we'll need everyone ready to act simultaneously. The holograms faded, leaving them in the dim lab. Above, the ever-present hum of the resonance pillars continued their broadcast of perfect, unambiguous commands. But now that sound carried a promise. Every system, no matter how perfect, had its breaking point. And humanity's greatest flaw, the beautiful chaos of their communication, might just be the key to their salvation. The message came at midnight. Denver cell compromised. Burn everything. Amanda's hands shook as she initiated the emergency protocols. Around her, the underground lab erupted into controlled chaos. Jack Torres wiped servers, while Dr. Thomas Wright, their quantum physicist, destroyed sensitive equipment with practiced efficiency. How did they find Denver? Thomas asked, his voice steady despite the situation. The lean physicist hadn't slept in days, dark circles under his eyes matching the rest of the team's. Does it matter? David Cooper appeared in the doorway, his tactical gear already on. They're moving east. We have maybe 6 hours before they reach us. The evacuation transport to the deep is ready. Amanda grabbed their core research data. The quantum linguistics breakthrough was too important to lose. Rebecca, Sarah, already evacuated to secondary sites. David confirmed. But we lost contact with 4 other cells in the last hour. The collective's going for a coordinated purge this time. The lab's sensors pinged a warning. Energy signatures from the nearest resonance pillar were spiking. The same pattern they'd seen before Vancouver went dark. Move. David's command sent them rushing through the emergency tunnel. They emerged 2 blocks away, just as a brilliant blue light engulfed the university district. The collective's energy beam reduced decades of research and history to atomized particles. The trip to the deep was a blur of tense silence and rough seas. The repurposed oil rig rose from the Atlantic like an iron giant, its structure modified to hide it from the collective's sensors. As they approached, Amanda saw why it was their best hope. The ocean itself provided natural quantum interference, making it harder for the collective's commands to reach the depths. Dr. Lisa Martinez, the Deep's lead researcher, met them at the dock level. The Denver team. Only 3 made it out, David reported. They're being routed to other facilities. Lisa led them to the central lab, 20 levels below the surface. The pressure at this depth made Amanda's ears pop, but it also meant they were beyond the resonance pillar's effective range. We've been monitoring the purges, Lisa explained, pulling up a global display. Red dots marked fallen resistance cells. They're being methodical this time. No survivors, no traces. They're scared, Thomas said, studying the pattern. Look at the energy output they're using. It's massive overkill. They're burning through quantum coherence just to ensure total destruction. Amanda connected their salvage data to the deep systems. Then we better make this count. The Denver team found something before they fell. Variations in how their command structure processes human music. Music. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Think about it. Thomas jumped in, his exhaustion forgotten in the excitement of scientific discovery. Music is mathematical, but also emotional. Structured yet interpretive. Multiple layers of meaning existing simultaneously. Just like quantum states, Amanda finished. She pulled up the Denver data, showing neural responses to various musical patterns. Look at how the brain processes a symphony versus their commands. The patterns are almost inverse. Thomas moved to a quantum simulator. If we could replicate that interference pattern. Lisa, does the Deep have audio equipment? Something that can handle multiple frequencies simultaneously. Better. Lisa led them to an adjacent lab. We've been studying whale songs. Their communications create natural quantum fields in the water. It's part of why the collective has trouble monitoring this facility. We have equipment that can analyze and reproduce those patterns. For the next 18 hours, they worked without rest. Thomas and Lisa modified the whale song equipment while Amanda and Jack mapped musical patterns that might disrupt the collective's quantum coherence. David maintained security and communications with the surviving cells. Then, at hour 19, everything changed. Look at this. Thomas called them to his station. He had combined a piece of classical music with modified whale song frequencies. On the quantum scanner, the combined wave pattern created a distinct disruption field. It's not just disrupting their commands, Amanda said, staring at the readings in awe. It's creating a cascading effect in their quantum network. Each disruption amplifies the next. Like feedback in an audio system, Lisa finished. The more they try to compensate with increased power, the worse the disruption becomes. Thomas could barely contain his excitement. We can use their own resonance pillars to broadcast this pattern. Their perfect quantum network would carry our chaos right into their core consciousness. Amanda felt hope rising again. Get me a secure line to Rebecca and Sarah. We need to move fast before the collective realizes what we found. Above them, miles of ocean water provided cover from the collective sensors. But even here, they could feel the distant thrum of resonance pillars, still broadcasting their commands to the surface world. Soon, that sound would carry something new. The first notes of humanity's counterattack. Sofia Martinez stood before the sound engineering console, her fingers hovering over controls she'd once used to create platinum records. Now, in the deep acoustic chamber, she was composing humanity's rebellion. The frequency modulation has to be subtle, Thomas explained, watching the quantum readings. If the collective detects an obvious pattern. Music is never just patterns, Sophia interrupted, her eyes closed as she listened to the layered harmonies. It's emotion given mathematical form. Trust me on this. Amanda watched them work, still amazed at how they'd found Sophia. The former pop star had been hiding in plain sight, using her music theory knowledge to study the collective's command frequencies. She tracked their harmonics like she once tracked Billboard hits. Energy signatures are aligned, Lisa reported from her station. The Dallas resonance pillar is within range of our first test broadcast. David's voice crackled over the comm. Ground team in position. If this works, we'll have eyes on any behavioral changes in the control population. Sophia's hands danced over the console, weaving together classical structures, whale songs, and something uniquely human. Ready for transmission. This piece, it's based on lullabies from 12 different cultures. The collective thinks in absolutes. But these melodies, they're meant to be interpreted, felt. Broadcast initiated, Thomas announced. Quantum interference pattern is stable. Piggyback signal merging with the resonance pillar's standard transmission. Everyone held their breath, watching the displays. The musical pattern, hidden within the collective's own command frequency, began spreading through the quantum network. Ground team reporting. David's voice was tense. First signs of change in the population. Subtle stuff. People stopping in their walks, looking around like they're waking up from a dream. Amanda studied the neural pattern displays. The disruption is working. Look at these readings. Their commands aren't failing completely, but they're fuzzing, creating gaps in the control. Collective response detected, Lisa warned. They're scanning the area, but they can't pinpoint the source. The interference pattern is coming from their own pillar. Sophia adjusted the harmonics, her expression intense. The key is to make it feel natural. Like the music is part of their command structure, not fighting it. Like waves in the ocean. Energy spike in the resonance pillar. Thomas called out. They're trying to boost power to compensate. That's what we wanted. Amanda smiled. More power means more carriers for our interference pattern. Sophia, can you? A warning alarm cut her off. New data flashed across their screens. Energy readings from collective ships entering the atmosphere above Dallas. They're not taking any chances. David reported. Ground team going dark. But Amanda, before we lost visual contact, we saw people moving freely, making their own choices, even if just for a few minutes. Test broadcast terminated. Lisa announced. Quantum signature decay initiated. By the time they analyze the pillar, our interference pattern will be gone. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of equipment. Then Sophia began laughing, tears in her eyes. What's so funny? Thomas asked. They tried to make humanity march in perfect step, she said, wiping her eyes. But they never understood. Our music, our languages, our very thoughts, they're always meant to dance. Amanda pulled up the test data, her excitement growing as she analyzed the results. The interference pattern exceeded our models. Even brief exposure created lasting disruptions in their quantum control matrix. How soon can we attempt another broadcast? David asked over the comm. We have 3 more potential test sites prepared. First, we need to analyze exactly why this worked so well, Thomas cautioned. The mathematical progression of Sophia's composition somehow amplified the quantum cascade effect. Sophia was already adjusting her console. I can work with different cultural bases, create variations that will be harder to track. Mix in some Gregorian chants, West African rhythms, Chinese opera. The more complex the better, Amanda agreed. Each variation gives us more data on how to disrupt their network. And if we can coordinate multiple broadcasts using different musical traditions, we create a symphony of interference. Lisa finished. Beautiful and chaotic enough to crack their perfect system. In the depths of the deep, surrounded by quantum readings and musical notations, humanity's resistance had found its voice. The next broadcast would be stronger. The one after that, stronger still. And in Dallas, for the first time since the invasion, people were remembering how to dance to their own rhythms. Fragment 7 had never experienced uncertainty before. The crystalline being hovered in its command chamber, surfaces rippling with discordant patterns as it analyzed the latest reports. Across the global network, command efficiency had dropped by 0.037%, an impossible imperfection in their perfect system. The human resistance grows bolder. Fragment 7 transmitted to the collective consciousness. Their chaos spreads like a virus through our network. The response came instantly, a chorus of crystalline voices unified in purpose. Increase control protocols. Perfection must be maintained. All anomalies must be eliminated. In the Deep's command center, Amanda and her team watched the collective's desperate attempts to regain control unfold across their displays. They're pushing their resonance pillars beyond safe operating parameters, Thomas reported, studying the energy readings. Look at these power spikes. They're trying to overwhelm our interference patterns with brute force. David's tactical team had just returned from a reconnaissance mission, bringing disturbing news. They're not just increasing power, he said, pulling up surveillance footage. They're adding new pillars, creating overlapping fields of control. The population in controlled zones can barely move under the increased commands. But it's not working like they expect, Jack added, pointing to neural pattern data collected from the field. The harder they push, the more chaos enters their system. Every new pillar, every power increase, creates more opportunities for our music to interfere. Sophia worked at her console, analyzing the collective's transmissions. Their broadcast harmonics are becoming erratic. It's like they're afraid. Listen to this. She played a decoded command sequence that wavered and stuttered, far from its usual crystalline perfection. They should be afraid, Amanda said softly. Their entire civilization is built on perfect quantum coherence. Even tiny imperfections threaten their whole existence. The main screen flashed red as new alerts poured in. The collective had begun a savage purge of Seattle, their energy weapons cutting swaths through the city in search of resistance cells. Thomas, get out of there. Rebecca's hologram appeared, her image crackling with interference. They're targeting anyone showing irregular neural patterns. Thomas barely made it to the emergency transport before blue fire consumed the Seattle safe house, As he was evacuated, the team watched in horror as the collective's forces tore the city apart in their paranoid search for imperfection. "They're becoming unstable," Lisa observed, her voice tight. "These reactions aren't logical anymore. They're emotional. Because we introduced something they can't quantify," Amanda realized. Human consciousness isn't just resisting their control, it's infecting their network with uncertainty. Every time they adapt their protocols, they absorb more of our chaos, Thomas finished, arriving at the command center still shaken from his narrow escape. Their perfect system is being corrupted by the very adaptations they make to fight us. David studied the tactical displays grimly. "But they're killing thousands in the process. We need to end this before their instability gets worse." "Maybe that's exactly what we need," Sophia said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. In music, sometimes you have to let the tension build to its breaking point before resolution. What if we pushed them further? Intentionally trigger their paranoia? Jack asked. Amanda's eyes widened as she saw the possibility. If we could coordinate our broadcasts, create maximum interference across their entire network at once, their own fear would tear them apart. Thomas nodded. But the timing would have to be perfect. If they realize what we're doing before the cascade failure reaches critical mass, then we make sure they don't realize it, David said. My teams can stage diversionary attacks, keep them focused on physical threats while we prepare the broadcast. Rebecca's hologram stabilized. I'll coordinate with the surviving cells. How many broadcast points do we need? At least 20, Thomas calculated. Spread across different continents, hitting major command nodes in their network. I can have the compositions ready in 48 hours, Sophia promised. Each one unique, but harmonically linked to create maximum disruption when combined. Amanda looked at her team, the scientist, the soldier, the musician, all united against an enemy that couldn't comprehend their beautiful imperfection. Let's show them why humanity's chaos has always been our greatest strength. Above them, Fragment 7 felt another surge of uncertainty ripple through its crystalline form. The perfection of the collective was fracturing, and for the first time in its existence, it knew fear. Operation Rosetta commencing in 15 minutes, David's voice echoed through the Deep's command center. All broadcast teams, report status. The responses came in from around the globe, each voice tense with anticipation. London team in position. Beijing ready. Moscow standing by. Cairo channel secure. Sydney broadcast point confirmed. Amanda watched the status lights turn green on their global display. 20 broadcast points, carefully hidden near major resonance pillars. Everything they'd learned, every sacrifice made, had led to this moment. Final system check, Thomas called out, his fingers dancing across quantum monitoring stations. Interference patterns are primed and synchronized. Sophia, how's the composition? Sophia sat surrounded by holographic musical scores, her eyes closed in concentration. The bass melody is ready. Each broadcast point has its own cultural variation, but they're all linked through the mathematical progressions. When combined, they'll create a cascading disruption through the collective's entire command network. Lisa finished. She pointed to new data streaming across their screens. But we have a problem. The collective's adding quantum encryption layers to their broadcast. They're trying to isolation shield the pillars. Too late for that, Jack said grimly. Rebecca's last transmission confirmed it. Their network coherence is already degrading. Our previous tests infected their system more than they realized. A proximity alarm blared. David's tactical feed showed collective ships entering Earth's atmosphere in unprecedented numbers. They're making their move, David reported. Multiple energy signatures charging. They're going to try to purge every major city simultaneously. Just like we predicted, Amanda nodded. They're pushing maximum power through their network, making it perfect for our transmission, Thomas completed. The more energy they pump through the system, the stronger our interference pattern becomes, Sophia smiled. Sometimes the best harmony comes from your opponent's rhythm. Rebecca's hologram materialized, her image unstable from interference. All remaining cells report ready. We've detected command fluctuations in the collective ships. Whatever you've done to their network is already affecting their coordination. Time to push them over the edge, Amanda decided. David, initiate the diversionary strikes. Across the globe, resistance teams launched synchronized attacks on secondary resonance pillars. The collective's forces responded instantly, redirecting their ships to defend their control infrastructure. Their fleet formation is breaking down, David reported with satisfaction. They're losing quantum coherence faster than they can compensate. Broadcast teams, prepare for transmission in 3 minutes. Thomas's monitor suddenly flashed warning signals. Energy spike in the upper atmosphere. They're charging their primary weapons array. They're going to glass the entire surface. Lisa gasped. They'd rather destroy Earth than risk losing control. Now, Amanda ordered. Broadcast everything. Full power. Don't wait for the countdown. Sophia's hands flew across her console, releasing the carefully crafted chaos they'd prepared. 20 broadcast points activated simultaneously, each sending its unique variation of human music, language, and mathematics through the collective's own resonance pillars. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. On their monitors, they watched the collective's quantum network light up like a Christmas tree, each node trying to process the impossible complexity of human expression all at once. Command coherence dropping across all frequencies, Thomas reported, his voice rising with excitement. Their ships are losing coordination. The weapon charge is dissipating. Through the speakers, they could hear it. A symphony of human voices, songs, and languages, all combined into a mathematical pattern that shredded the collective's perfect order. Classical orchestras merged with throat singing, West African drums blended with Gregorian chants, Chinese opera intertwined with Arabic poetry. Every way humans had ever found to express their thoughts and emotions turned into a weapon against those who would silence them. Fragment 7's consciousness reached out desperately to the network, seeking the comfort of perfect unity. But the crystalline harmony that had defined its existence for millennia was dissolving, replaced by a cacophony of human chaos that grew stronger with each passing second. Neural readings from the surface. Jack called out. People are waking up everywhere. The command structure is failing. Amanda watched the displays, tears in her eyes as she saw the collective's ships falling into disarray, their perfect formations shattering like the crystalline minds that control them. Humanity's music rose from every resonance pillar on Earth, carrying not just interference patterns, but the full spectrum of human consciousness. Beautiful, chaotic, and finally free. Rebecca, she called to the flickering hologram. Tell all cells to maintain broadcast. We're not just breaking their control now. We're showing them exactly who we are. Above them, the collective's fleet hung in disarray as their unified consciousness drowned in a sea of human expression, unable to comprehend or control the beautiful imperfection that was destroying their perfect world. Deep beneath New York's ruins, Amanda stood before the quantum transmission array they'd secretly built into the bedrock. Around her, the combined expertise of humanity's resistance had created something unprecedented, a device capable of sending a single command through the collective's degrading network. Their quantum coherence is at 17% and falling, Thomas reported, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. The musical interference has fractured their consciousness into thousands of semi-independent shards. Through their secure channels, they could hear the chaos unfolding worldwide. Collective ships crashed or hung motionless in the sky as their crystal pilots lost connection to their unified mind. The resonance pillars, still broadcasting Sophia's symphonic weapon, shimmered with new frequencies never meant to exist in their perfect system. Ground teams reporting massive crystalline fragmentations. David's voice crackled through the comm. The collective's physical forms are starting to break down, whatever held them together. It was their unified consciousness, Amanda finished. Their bodies are quantum structures maintained by perfect coherence. Now that we've introduced chaos into their network, They're experiencing individual thought for the first time in their existence. Rebecca's hologram flickered as she spoke. Can you imagine? A hive mind splintering into separate awareness after eons of perfect unity. Sophia worked at her station, making final adjustments to their last transmission. The command synthesis is ready. I've woven elements from every human language we could record, not just words, but emotional patterns, cultural contexts, even the spaces between thoughts. Quantum matrix primed, Lisa announced. We have maybe 5 minutes before their network adapts or collapses completely. It has to be now. Amanda took a deep breath, looking at each member of her team. Jack, still analyzing language patterns. Thomas, monitoring the quantum fields. Sophia, her hands poised over the controls that would send their final message. David's tactical team, watching for any last desperate attacks from the fragmenting collective. Their entire civilization was built on perfect commands, Amanda said softly. Everything had to be precise, unambiguous, mathematically pure. But they never understood that consciousness, real consciousness, lives in the spaces between certainties. In the interpretation, not just the instruction. Sophia nodded. In the heart, not just the mind. Send it, Amanda ordered. Sophia's fingers danced across her console one last time. The quantum array hummed to life, channeling their carefully crafted message through the collective's own network. A command that carried within it the full complexity of human thought and emotion, translated into their perfect language. Be silent. The effect was instantaneous. The command, wrapped in layers of human linguistics and emotional context, shot through the quantum network at light speed. Each crystalline being that received it experienced something they'd never known. True choice. The command wasn't a pure instruction like they'd always known, but a seed of free will wrapped in quantum mathematics. On their monitors, they watched the collective's consciousness shatter. Not with violence, but with understanding. Their perfect unity dissolved not into chaos, but into possibility. Energy readings dropping across all frequencies, Thomas reported, wonder in his voice. Their ships, they're not just deactivating, they're changing. Through their observation feeds, they watched as the collective's crystalline forms began to shift and fracture, each piece developing its own unique pattern. The beings that had enforced perfect uniformity were becoming individuals. Neural scans confirmed total command network failure, Jack announced. The resonance pillars are going dark worldwide. Amanda moved to the main viewport, looking up at the New York sky. The oppressive blue glow that had dominated their world for so long was fading, replaced by natural sunlight. In the distance, she could hear something she hadn't heard in years. People laughing, crying, singing, being human. Rebecca, she called to the hologram, what are you seeing globally? The same thing everywhere, Rebecca replied, joy in her voice. Humanity is waking up. And the collective, the fragments that survived, they're trying to communicate, not with commands, but with questions. David's tactical team reported in from the surface. You need to see this. The crystalline beings, the ones that didn't shatter, they're forming new patterns, individual patterns. It's like they're learning how to exist without the hive mind. Of course they are, Sophia smiled. We didn't just break their control, we showed them a new way to exist. Through music, through language, through all the beautiful imperfections that make consciousness real. As the sun set on humanity's first truly free day in years, the last resonance pillar went dark. In its place, a new sound filled the air, the chaotic, wonderful symphony of 7 billion individual voices, each speaking, singing, and living in their own unique way. Above them, the surviving crystalline beings began their own journey into consciousness, learning that true harmony comes not from enforced perfection, but from the beautiful complexity of choice.